Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are shifting gears a little bit. Usually when we talk about high performance, we're talking about, Silicon Valley disruptors or Navy SEALs or people who wake up at 3 a.m. to take ice baths.
This whole grind set mentality.
Exactly, the grind. But today, we're looking at a figure who dominates one of the most high-pressure, just cutthroat industries on the planet, elite European football. And he does it, well, seemingly without grinding at all.
Yeah.
In fact, if you just look at him, he looks like he'd rather be eating a giant plate of pasta than, I don't know, giving a pep talk.
It is a fantastic contrast, isn't it? We are, of course, talking about Carlo Ancelotti.
The Danone one, a man with a permanently arched eyebrow. And we are amazing this deep dive on his autobiography, Carlo Ancelotti, The Beautiful Games of an Ordinary Genius.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, right off the bat, that title throws me. Ordinary genius, it feels like.
Yeah.
Like an oxymoron.
It does it? But that tension, that exact tension is the key to his entire career, his entire philosophy. I mean, you have a man who has won the Champions League a record number of times. We're talking more than Sir Alex Ferguson, more than Pep Guardiola.
The giants of the game.
The absolute pantheon. And he's won the league title in Italy, England, France, Spain, and Germany. Nobody else has done that.
The only one.
The only one. He operates in a world of multi-billion-dollar corporations, massive egos, global media scrutiny, and just unbelievable stress.
And yet his whole brand, his whole persona is a regular guy.
It's not just that he markets himself that way, it's that he is a regular guy. His whole philosophy is that in a world of special ones, and that's a clear nod to Jose Mourinho, he is the normal one. He is the quiet leader. And the source material, the book, it really frames this as a manual, not just for football management, but for life.
How so?
It's about how to lead without losing your humanity, and honestly, how to prioritize the good things in life, like food, while the world is literally burning down around you.
Speaking of food, that is the first thing that just jumped out at me reading this. The man is obsessed.
Completely.
It's not just, oh, I like a good meal. It is woven into his language, his metaphors, his entire being. He talks about winning the Champions League and eating tortellini with the exact same level of, reverence.
It's the recurring metaphor of hunger.
Yeah.
In the book, he constantly, and I mean constantly, parallels the hunger for trophies. The Scudetto, the big years of the Champions League Cup, with actual physical hunger.
Right.
For salami, for culatello, for a good Lambrusco wine. It's all the same drive for him.
So, our mission today is to figure out how this works. How does a guy who rivals insulted by calling him a pig, and we will absolutely get to that story. It's wild. How does he become arguably the most successful manager in history?
Yeah.
Is it the tactics? Is it just vibes? Or is it really the food?
I think it's all three, but the food is the gateway. To understand Ancelotti, you have to understand where he comes from. You have to go back to the farm.
Okay, let's start there then. Section 1, the philosophy of the pig. Because this story about the insult, it's really jarring. He takes the job at Juventus in the late 90s. So can you set the scene for us? Why did they hate him so much?
Okay, so the context here is absolutely crucial. Ancelotti had been a legendary player for two clubs, AS Roma and, more importantly, AC Milan.
Right.
In the 80s, Juventus was the establishment. They were the corporate giants, the team of the Agnelli family who owned Fiat.
The aristocrats.
Exactly. The industrial aristocratic north. And Roma and Milan were the big challengers. So Ancelotti spent his entire playing career fighting against Juventus. He was the enemy.
So it's like a lifelong Boston Red Sox legend suddenly taking over as manager of the New York Yankees.
It's even a bit deeper than that. Imagine that Red Sox legend is also like a country bumpkin from Vermont, and the Yankees are owned by literal royalty.
Okay, I see.
Juventus represents this polished corporate Italy. Ancelotti is a farmer's son from Emilia-Romagna, the agricultural heartland. So when he arrives in Turin, the ultras, the hardcore fans, they don't just dislike him, they despise him.
And that's when he sees the graffiti.
Yes. He's driving through the city, he's in the Piazza Crimea, and he sees this obelisk. And someone has spray painted in huge letters, "A pig can't coach."
Wow. A pig can't coach. That is just, it's brutal. Most people, especially in a new high-profile job, you see that and you crumble.
You'd be devastated.
You'd call your PR team.
Yeah.
You'd issue a statement. You'd try to fight it. You'd get angry.
Exactly. You get defensive. But Ancelotti's reaction, this is the first major lesson in his entire leadership style. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't even fight the premise. He looks at it and thinks, you know what? You're right. I am a pig.
Wait, he agrees with them. He just accepts the insult.
He doesn't just accept it, he reclaims it. He transforms the symbol. See, to the Juventus fans, calling him a pig was calling him dirty, fat, uncouth, a peasant.
An insult to his rural roots.
Yeah. Precisely. But Ancelotti, he immediately goes back to his childhood. In Emilia-Romagna, on the farm, the pig isn't an insult. The pig is sacred. It's almost a deity.
A deity. How so?
Well, it's the engine of survival. He describes in the book, in beautiful detail, how his family would raise one pig for an entire year. They fed it the best scraps, they cared for it. And when winter came, the slaughter of the pig wasn't this, violent, sad act. It was a festival.
A celebration.
A huge celebration, because it meant the family had meat for the entire year, salami, prosciutto, sausages, lard for cooking. The pig literally kept them alive through the cold months.
So when they call him a pig, he's hearing something completely different. He's hearing, you are essential, you are valuable, you are a provider.
That's it. He flips the narrative, but only internally. He realizes that being a pig, being grounded, being earthy, being connected to real simple things, that's his strength, not his weakness. He's not an aristocrat like the Agnellas. He's a provider.
And this ability to just reframe an insult, to absorb it, that's what makes him what he calls earthquake-proof later on.
It's the foundation of it. And he also uses humor to deflect this stuff, right? There's that great story about the Coppa. This is after he's left Juventus and gone to Milan.
Oh, this one is brilliant. Walk us through it.
Okay, so he has these two good friends from Parma who are die-hard Juventus fans. The kind of friends you love, but who give you endless grief. They probably secretly agreed with the pig graffiti.
Of course.
So fast forward a few years, Ancelotti is now the coach of AC Milan, and he leads them to beat Juventus in the Champions League final. The ultimate victory, the biggest prize in club football.
Okay, so he's won. He's the undisputed king of Europe. He has ultimate bragging rights. Does he rub it in their faces?
He does, but in the most Ancelotti way possible. He goes to a deli and buys two absolutely massive, high-quality salamis.
Naturally.
He wraps them up beautifully like they're a Christmas gift, and he sends them to these two friends with a short note. And the note says, "To you the salami, to me the coppa."
I love that. But we should probably explain the pun for anyone who doesn't speak Italian.
Right. Crucial detail. So coppa is a brilliant double entendre. In a deli, coppa is a specific and very delicious cut of cured pork from the neck of the pig.
Part of the pig.
Right. But in sports, la coppa means the cup, the trophy.
So he's saying, you guys can have the meat, you can have the pig parts, but I'm keeping the actual trophy.
Precisely. It's competitive, it's triumphant, but it's generous, isn't it? He still sent them the salami. He's maintaining the friendship while asserting his dominance in the most charming way. It just completely disarms the rivalry.
It's hard to stay mad at a guy who just sent you 5 kilos of premium cured meat.
It really is.
It seems like food is the lens through which he processes absolutely everything, even stress. There's that almost unbelievable hallucination story. The one with the Russian player at Chelsea, Yuri Zhirkov.
Oh, the karaoke incident. This is where the food metaphor crosses the line from a simple quirk into a mild clinical hallucination.
Okay, so set the scene. He's at Chelsea in London.
He's the manager at Chelsea. And in many football teams, when a new player joins, there's a tradition. They have to stand on a chair at dinner and sing a song in front of everyone. It's a classic sort of hazing ritual.
Which sounds absolutely terrifying if you're shy or can't sing.
And Zhirkov was both. He was incredibly shy. He didn't speak English well. He gets up there, and Ancelotti says in the book he sounds like a drowning cat. It is physically painful to listen to.
I'm cringing just thinking about it.
But here's the thing. Ancelotti isn't really listening to the singing. He writes that he just stared at Zhirkov, and suddenly he didn't see a Russian left back anymore. He saw a ribeye steak.
Wait, literally? Like a cartoon with wavy lines around the person?
Literally, he says, I looked him in the eye, and suddenly I was starving. He's imagining the player as a juicy, perfectly grilled steak with the fat sizzling and rendering off the side.
That's a very specific stress response.
It is. When things get awkward or tense or stressful, Ancelotti's brain just defaults to food. It's his happy place.
And then the scene just descends into complete chaos.
Yeah, total chaos. The singing is so bad that one of his teammates picks up a piece of cutlery, a fork, and just launches it at Zhirkov.
That was a fork at him.
Throws a fork. Now, picture a standard manager here. A Guardiola, a Ferguson. Someone throws a fork at a new multi-million-pound signing. That's a disciplinary meeting. That's a fine.
Yeah.
So that is a long lecture on professionalism and respect.
Right, you have to shut that down immediately.
But what does Ancelotti do? He watches the fork fly through the air. He admires its trajectory. He calls it a smart bomb. And his brain just connects the dots. Fork, steak, dinner. He starts laughing. He lets the whole team laugh.
He doesn't punish anyone?
He does the opposite. He realizes that this moment of shared absurdity, of chaos, is bonding the team closer together than any corporate team-building exercise ever could.
It's fascinating because it seems so passive, but it's actually a very active choice to let the culture breathe. But was this food thing always just a quirk? Or did it actually influence his career moves?
Yeah.
Because there's this amazing rumor about why he got the AC Milan job in the first place.
The Fatih Terim theory. This is one of my favorite stories. It's hilarious, but Ancelotti swears there's a lot of truth to it.
Okay.
So before Ancelotti, AC Milan was coached by Fatih Terim, a well-respected Turkish manager, and the powerful CEO of Milan was Adriano Galliani. Now, Galliani is a man who appreciates the good life. He loves expensive suits, fine wine, and especially fine dining.
A man of taste.
Very much so. According to Ancelotti, Terim's biggest mistake at Milan wasn't his tactics or his results. It was his menu.
His menu?
His menu. Terim was a disciplinarian and put the team on an incredibly strict diet. We're talking plain broth, tap water, bland, unseasoned pasta. And Galliani would come to the training center for lunch and be absolutely miserable.
He was starving the CEO.
He was offending the CEO's palate. So when Milan decided to move on from Terim, Galliani calls Ancelotti to offer him the job. And Ancelotti doesn't pitch him on a revolutionary 4-4-2 formation. He pitches him on the menu.
What does he promise?
He promises culatello, which is like the absolute king of hams and good Lambrusco wine. He basically says, if you hire me, we will eat like kings again.
And that actually worked.
He got the job. Now, obviously, there were other reasons, but he believes this was a huge part of it. It implies that cultural fit, and in Italy, food is culture, is just as important as technical competence.
So he positioned himself not as the special one who would revolutionize the club,
but as the regular guy who would make the club a pleasant, delicious place to be every day, and that's a powerful sell.
That regular guy persona is so distinct from his peers. But he wasn't born a manager. He had to learn it. And the book spends a lot of time on his education. He played under some absolute legends of coaching.
He did, and you can really see his management style as this kind of mosaic. He took a little piece from each of his masters. He really highlights three main figures in his development: Nils Liedholm, Arrigo Sacchi, and Fabio Capello.
Okay, let's break them down. Starting with Nils Liedholm. He calls him the comedian.
Liedholm was his coach at Roma in the 80s. He was Swedish, but he was an icon in Italy. And he was the absolute master of calm. He treated the locker room less like a military barracks and more like a theater stage. He never, ever raised his voice.
And he taught Ancelotti the art of faking it.
The art of the fake. This is actually a profound lesson for anyone who's ever suffered from imposter syndrome. So Liedholm would give these incredibly complex, intricate instructions in training. Okay, dribble with the right, fake with the left, drop the shoulder, then spin.
Right.
Ancelotti, who was just a young kid from the farm, he had no idea what he was talking about. He was totally lost. He couldn't follow.
So what did he do? Just stand there?
He froze. He just stood there looking confused. But Liedholm pulled him aside after practice and said, Carlo, listen, if you don't know what to do, just fake a fake.
Fake a fake? What does that even mean?
It means look confident even when you're not. Hesitate with purpose. Make the opponent think you're about to do something incredibly clever, even if you're just buying yourself a second to think.
I get it.
Ancelotti realized that, 90% of the game is projecting confidence. If you look like you know what you're doing, people, your teammates, your opponents, they believe you.
That's useful in a boardroom meeting, too. Just look thoughtful and say, let's circle back on that.
Exactly. Let's take this offline.
Yeah.
That is faking a fake. But Liedholm also taught him that you can't take life too seriously. Which brings us to the story of the mummy prank.
Oh, this one is just so elaborate. You have to walk us through it.
Okay, so the Roma team had a star winger, a guy named Bruno Conti, world class, a legend. But the team decides they want to pull a prank on the team's warehouse worker, a guy named Pepe.
Poor Pepe.
They take their star player, their biggest asset, strip him down to his underwear, and wrap him head to toe in toilet paper.
Like a Halloween mummy.
A literal life-size mummy. And then they prop him up against Pepe's door in the team dormitory in the middle of the night. They knock on the door, and then they all hide down the hall.
This is already going too far.
Pepe opens the door. He's sleepy, rubbing his eyes, and he sees this giant white monster screaming at him in the dark hallway.
The poor guy must have had a heart attack.
He nearly did. He was terrified. Now, in a modern corporate environment, that is an immediate lawsuit. That is HR getting involved. That is a suspension.
Oh, for sure.
But Liedholm, he found out about it, and he loved it. He thought it was hilarious. He saw that the team was bonding. He realized that if the players are laughing together, if they're playing pranks on each other, they will run through a brick wall for each other on Sunday. He prioritized the human connection over rigid discipline.
Okay, so that's Liedholm, the chill, funny uncle.
Yeah.
Then you have the complete polar opposite, Arrigo Sacchi, the maniac.
A maniac. And that is not an exaggeration. Sacchi is arguably the most influential tactician in modern football history. He basically invented the modern pressing game, but he was intense. He was obsessive.
And Ancelotti says he would scream tactics in his sleep.
Literally in his sleep. Yes. They had to share a room on an away trip once. Ancelotti is trying to get some rest, and Sacchi is just yelling, "Run diagonal! Squeeze the space diagonal!" in his dreams. That is how wired he was, 2047.
That's a lot.
But the story that really illustrates the difference between passion and obsession is the nature walk in Paris.
Oh, I felt physical pain reading this part of the book. It's so good.
It's excruciating. So the team is in Paris for a big European match. You're in Paris, one of the most beautiful romantic cities in the world. Ancelotti is thinking, great, maybe we'll see the Louvre, maybe the Eiffel Tower, get a nice croissant.
A normal human reaction.
Nope. Sacchi drags him to a park.
Okay, a stroll in a Parisian park sounds nice.
It wasn't a stroll. It was a lecture. For 4 hours, Ancelotti says he kept checking his watch. For 4 hours, Sacchi walks him around pointing at plants. "Carlo, look at this. This is a hawthorn. Notice the unique leaf structure. Carlo, this is a trumpet narcissus."
Was Sacchi a botanist in a past life?
No. That's the entire point. He just applied the same maniacal, obsessive attention to detail to everything. If he was looking at a tree, he had to know the species. If he was looking at a defensive line, he had to know the spacing down to the exact millimeter.
And what was Ancelotti thinking during this?
He says he was bored out of his mind. He was just praying for a thunderstorm so they could go back inside. He couldn't have cared less about the hawthorn.
But he obviously learned something important from it.
He learned that greatness requires that level of detail. You can't just tell players, play better. You have to define exactly what better looks like, down to the last blade of grass. Sacchi taught him the work.
But he also taught him what not to do.
Absolutely. Ancelotti saw that Sacchi burned himself out. You can't live at that level of intensity for 20 years. You explode. You alienate people. So Ancelotti decided he would take the detail, but he would leave the insanity behind.
He takes the lesson, but changes the delivery method.
A much more humane delivery method. And then there's the third teacher, Fabio Capello, the grump.
This relationship wasn't quite as warm and fuzzy, was it?
Not at all. This was much later in Ancelotti's playing career back at Milan. His knees were going, he was getting slow. Capello comes in as the new manager, a much younger man, looks at Ancelotti, this club legend, and basically says, "You're done."
He benches him.
He doesn't just bench him, he puts him in the stands. He completely excludes him. And this was devastating for Ancelotti. But he says in the book that this was the single most valuable lesson of all.
Ow.
It taught him about the wobbly bench.
The wobbly bench. This is a key concept for him. It comes up again and again.
It is. It's his metaphor for job security in football. He realized that a player's position, and by extension a manager's job, is never stable. It's always wobbling. One bad game, one new signing, one new owner, and you're gone.
And it taught him empathy.
Tremendous empathy. He learned what it feels like to be excluded, to be ignored. So when he became a manager himself, he swore he would never treat a bench player like a ghost. He would always talk to them. He would explain why they weren't playing, because he remembered the pain of Capello's cold silence.
So he takes Liedholm's humor, Sacchi's tactical detail, and the empathy he learned from Capello's coldness, and he goes out into the world to manage. But it wasn't an instant success story, was it?
Not at all. We forget this now because he wins everything, but early manager Carlo was actually kind of a disaster. He started at a small club, Reggiana, and then got a bigger job at Parma. And at Parma, he made a mistake that he says still haunts him, a mistake born of pure tactical stubbornness.
This is his anti-imagination phase.
Yes. He was so obsessed with perfectly copying Sacchi's 4-4-2 system, that rigid, flat grid, that he lost his mind. he had the opportunity to sign Roberto Baggio.
And for anyone who doesn't know Baggio,
Roberto Baggio, the divine ponytail. He was a god in Italy, probably the most gifted, creative Italian player of all time, a magician with the ball. He wanted to join Parma, and Carlo Ancelotti said no.
he said no to Roberto Baggio.
Oh.
That's like turning down Michael Jordan because he doesn't fit your specific offensive set.
It's exactly like that. It's tactical malpractice. Ancelotti's logic was, I don't play with the number 10, a creative playmaker. I play 4-4-2. Baggio doesn't fit in the box. So Baggio went to a smaller club, Bologna, and scored 22 goals that season.
In Parma.
Parma finished second, just missing out on the title. Ancelotti realized, I am a complete idiot. He calls himself, in the book, Ancelotti, the anti-imagination.
So that was the real turning point for him as a coach.
That was the moment he decided, forever, the system must serve the players. The players do not serve the system. If you have a genius on your team, you build the team around the genius. You don't ask the genius to act like a robot.
Which brings us full circle back to Juventus. He gets the big job despite his past. But, as we said, the fans hate him. And the management, well, they were a different breed entirely.
The triad, Luciano Moggi, Antonio Serrato, and Roberto Bottega. They ran Juventus like a corporate cartel. Ancelotti has this hilarious description of them as synchronized swimmers.
Well, what on earth does that mean?
He says that in meetings, they would all stand up at the exact same moment, or they'd all cross their legs at the same time. It was like they were telepathically linked. It was deeply intimidating. It was corporate efficiency taken to a terrifying, almost comical level.
And they like to play power games.
Oh, they loved it. Which brings us to the story of Kabunga Guti.
Kabunga Guti, that has to be a made-up name.
It is, but Ancelotti didn't know that at the time. So he's at home one night, the phone rings. It's Moggi and Gerardo, the top executives, but they put on a voice. They pretend to be Gianni Agnelli, the owner of Fiat and Juventus.
Who was like the king of Italy, basically.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
If Agnelli called, you stood at attention, even if you were on the phone in your pajamas.
Right.
So they say, in this very posh, aristocratic accent, Carlo, I have found a new phenomenon, a striker from the Ivory Coast. His name is Kabunga Guti. He is incredible. We must sign him.
And Ancelotti is the coach. He's supposed to know every player on the planet.
Exactly. So he starts panicking. He's sweating. He's thinking, who the hell is Kabunga Guti? I've never heard of him. I'm going to get fired for incompetence. So he starts bluffing. Oh, yes, Avocado Kabunga Guti. Yes, a very interesting player.
He fakes a fake. He uses the lead home technique.
He tries to fake a fake, but it backfires spectacularly because they just burst out laughing on the other end of the line. You idiot, there is no Kabunga Guti. It was a prank, but it was a cruel one.
What did it show him?
It showed him that at Juventus, he was the butt of the joke. He wasn't one of them. He wasn't respected. He was the farmer they hired to do a job.
And even though he had Zinedine Zidane, who was the actual best player in the world at the time, he couldn't make it work there.
He couldn't win the title. He came in second place 2 years in a row, which at Juventus is considered a total failure. And the dynamic with Zidane is really interesting. Ancelotti worshipped him as a player, but he also saw how the club treated him and how different that was from how they treated everyone else.
How so?
Zidane basically had a personal bodyguard on the pitch, a defender named Paolo Montero.
Montero was a player, right?
Yeah, a tough one.
A brutal defender. Ancelotti says Montero was the loveliest guy in the world. Until someone touched Zidane. Then a switch flipped. There's a story at the airport. Some fans are getting too close to Zidane, pushing him, harassing him. Montero's wearing glasses.
Okay.
He calmly takes his glasses off, folds them, puts them in their case, puts the case carefully in his pocket, and then boom.
He attacks the fans.
He just cleans them out. Just starts swinging. Because at Juventus, Zidane was the crown jewel. You protect the jewel at all costs. But Ancelotti, he was disposable. And eventually he was disposed of.
The firing, it was cold. Absolutely brutal. He's in the dugout, managing the final game of the season. If they win, they might still win the league title. And at halftime, in the middle of the game, a journalist comes up to him and says, "Hey, Carlo, did you know they've already hired Marcello Lippi to replace you for next season?"
At halftime. That is just unbelievably disrespectful.
That is the wobbly bench in real painful action. He was fired despite getting 144 points in 2 seasons, an incredible record. But this failure, this humiliation, it set the stage for his masterpiece.
He goes home, eats some salami, licks his wounds.
And then he gets the call from Milan.
The golden age. This is where the legend is really built. And this is where he finally applies that lesson he learned about Roberto Baggio. He stops being Ancelotti, the anti-imagination.
He goes full imagination mode. He arrives at Milan and he inherits a very weirdly constructed squad. He has a surplus of number 10s, 4 of them. 4 world-class creative playmakers, Pirlo, Seedorf, Rui Costa, and Rivaldo.
And conventional wisdom says you can play maybe one of them, maybe 2 if you're feeling brave.
Right, you need balance. You need tough guys, water carriers, to do the dirty work and protect the artists. But Ancelotti remembers Baggio. He thinks to himself, I am never, ever saying no to talent again. So he invents the Christmas tree formation, the 4-3-2-1.
And he just plays all of them.
He plays all of them. But the craziest, most genius move was what he did with Andrea Pirlo. We have to dwell on this because it genuinely changed modern football.
Okay, so Pirlo at the time was an attacking midfielder, a number 10, a classic artist.
And Ancelotti moves him back, all the way back, to play as the deepest midfielder right in front of the defense.
The Ribista role. Now, you have to understand, for our listeners, the risk here. In Italy, that position was usually for a destroyer, a big, tough guy who breaks legs, like a Gennaro Gattuso.
Exactly, and Pirlo. He's an artist, he's elegant, he's physically slow, he's not strong. He looks like he's just drifting through a dream when he plays.
Putting him in front of your defense sounds like tactical suicide. The other team should just run right over him.
That's what everyone said would happen. All the pundits said, you have no steel in your midfield, you'll be destroyed. But Ancelotti saw something else. He realized that if Pirlo plays deep, he has the entire pitch in front of him. He has 20 yards of space to operate in every direction.
That's like an NFL quarterback standing in a clean pocket with no pass rush.
Perfect analogy. Instead of trying to win tackles, Pirlo just passes the ball before the opponent can even get to him. He controls the entire tempo of the game from deep. But, and here's the tactical balance, Ancelotti didn't just leave him there alone.
He put Gennaro Gattuso next to him.
Rino Gattuso, the pit bull. A man who, as you said, would tackle his own grandmother if she had the ball. So the dynamic was perfect. Gattuso runs around like a madman and wins the ball back.
And then gives it to Pirlo.
Gives it to Pirlo, who then paints a masterpiece. It was brains and brawn perfectly synchronized.
It worked. They won everything.
Eh.
But then, in 2003, they added one more ingredient to this incredible team. The boy from Brazil, Kaká.
This is such a great don't judge a book by its cover moment. Kaká arrives at the Milan airport. Ancelotti and the staff go to meet him, and Ancelotti says his heart just sinks.
Why? What did he look like?
He says he looked like a Jehovah's Witness or a straight-A student. He had these big glasses, his hair was perfectly parted, he was clutching a little briefcase. He looked like he was carrying a lunchbox to his first day of high school.
Not a world-beating footballer.
Ancelotti thought, oh no, we've signed a choir boy. He's going to get eaten alive in Syria.
And then he gets on the training pitch.
The very first training session, Gattuso, being Gattuso, decides to give the new kid a traditional welcome. He lines Kaká up and hits him with a ferocious shoulder charge. Bam! Trying to knock him into next week.
A little welcome to Milan.
Kaká doesn't budge. He just bounces off the tackle, keeps the ball perfectly under control, turns, and fires a 50-yard laser beam of a pass that splits the entire defense. Ancelotti said in that moment he heard the heavens open up. He realized, oh, he's not a student, he's a monster.
This team, Maldini, Nesta, Pirlo, Seedorf, Kaká, Shevchenko. It's a literal all-star team. How do you manage all those massive egos? How do you keep everyone happy?
You play a game called the Brigand Chief.
They'll say, okay, we teased this. You have to explain the game of the Brigand Chief.
This is the ultimate example of Ancelotti's family culture in action. So the team is at dinner. Ancelotti initiates this elaborate role-playing game. It's a story about a king, a queen, and a group of bandits in the forest.
Okay.
Every player is assigned a role. When Ancelotti, who is narrating, says the king, Paolo Maldini has to stand up. When he says the guard, Gattuso has to stand up.
And if you miss your cue, if you don't stand up in time,
you have to drink a glass of wine, or you just get mocked mercilessly by everyone. But the whole game is a setup. It's an elaborate trap designed to humiliate one person, the new guy, in this case, a French midfielder named Mathieu Flamini.
Right.
So the older players convince Flamini that the best, most important role is the Brigand Chief, the leader of the bandits. And Fleming, he's excited. Yes, I want to be the chief.
He falls for it.
Hook, line, and sinker. So Ancelotti starts telling the story. He's building the tension, describing the dark forest. And suddenly, coming out of the woods, it was the Brigand Chief.
And Flamini stands up.
Flamini loops up onto his chair, puffs out his chest, and yells at the top of his lungs, I am the Brigand Chief. And then the entire team, World Cup winners, millionaires, global superstars, they all scream back in perfect unison, a very colorful rhymus insult. It's a bit too crude to repeat, but it involves what the brigand chief does and what he uses for a napkin.
Oh my God. That is incredibly juvenile.
It is pure middle school behavior, but think about what's happening. You are Matteo Flamini. You just got publicly and hilariously pranked by Paolo Maldini and Capacca. You were all laughing. You were all screaming insults. The barrier is gone.
It completely breaks down the hierarchy.
Exactly. You aren't a colleague anymore. You're a brother. You're part of the tribe.
Ancelotti knows that on the football pitch, the pressure is immense. So off the pitch, he creates an environment that is silly, relaxed, and full of love. He absorbs the professional stress so they can just play games. But sometimes the stress wins. We have to talk about Istanbul, 2005. For Milan fans, it's still the darkest night.
You can't tell the Ancelotti story without this trauma. Champions League final. A Milan versus Liverpool. On paper, Milan is the much better team, and they are playing like gods. They are up 3-0 at halftime.
It's over. The game is done. They're basically engraving the trophy.
And then the 6-minute blackout in the second half, Liverpool scores. Then they score again. Then they score again. From 3-0 to 3-3 in just 6 minutes. Milan then loses on penalties. It's the biggest collapse in Champions League final history.
How does a manager even handle that? I mean, honestly, you walk into that locker room after the game, what do you possibly say?
Ancelotti admits in the book he was in a vacuum. His mind went completely blank. He couldn't process what had just happened. But what he did in the days and weeks that followed is fascinating.
He didn't scream at them.
No screaming, no blaming the defense. He didn't even rewatch or analyze the tactics of those 6 minutes because, frankly, there were no tactics. It was a freak event, a psychological collapse.
So what did he do?
He focused on the shared pain. He used the psychology of, we suffer this together. He told them, we played a perfect football game for 114 minutes. We had 6 minutes of collective madness. That is football. That is life. He refused to let it break their identity as a great team. He just kept the group together.
And that incredible patience paid off.
2 years later, Athens, 2007. They play Liverpool again in the Champions League final. And this time, Milan wins. Ancelotti calls it the closing of the circle. But he says, very clearly, they couldn't have won in Athens if they hadn't suffered so terribly in Istanbul. The scar tissue made them stronger.
That resilience seems to be his superpower. And speaking of weird stressors, we have to mention the Calciopoli scandal briefly, because it features another one of his great prank gone wrong stories.
The warrant officer Arricchio story, it's hilarious. So it's 2006 and Italian football is just imploding. There are match-fixing allegations everywhere. Police are raiding club offices. It's a huge scandal.
And Ancelotti gets a call.
He gets a call from a man who says, this is warrant officer Arricchio from the police.
And Ancelotti thinks?
He thinks of cheese. Provolone Arricchio is a very famous brand of cheese in Italy, so Ancelotti immediately thinks it's his friends, maybe the same ones he sent the salami to, messing with him again.
So he gives him a hard time.
He starts mocking the police officer. Yeah, sure, and I'm Mickey Mouse. Go away. Stop wasting my time. Hangs up on him.
It wasn't a prank, was it?
It was not a prank. It was a very real, very serious police officer. He had to go to Rome for a terrifying interrogation. But even then, when he finally meets the officer in person, the first thing he does is crack a joke about the cheese name. He just finds humor in the darkest moments. It's his survival mechanism.
After Milan, he moves to England, to Chelsea. This is a totally different challenge. New language, new football culture, and a very, very different type of owner. Roman Abramovich.
Abramovich is a fascinating foil to Silvio Berlusconi at Milan. Berlusconi was loud. He wanted to be the coach. He wanted to be the star of the show. Abramovich was intensely shy. Ancelotti says he barely spoke, but he was obsessed with aesthetics. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to win beautifully.
And their first meeting sounded like something out of a spy novel.
They really did. Ancelotti was still under contract with Milan, so he had to meet Abramovich in secret. They met in Paris, in Geneva. He describes wearing sunglasses, pulling his hat down low, looking for back entrances to hotels. He felt like James Bond.
The name is Ancelotti, Carlo Ancelotti.
But he gets the job. And at Chelsea, he faces a classic mid-season crisis. The team hits a slump, they stop winning, And the British press, which is ferocious, is calling for his head. The players are starting to panic.
And this is where he uses the times table strategy.
This is such a great takeaway for any manager in any field. The team is emotional. They are spiraling, thinking about the worst-case scenarios. Ancelotti realizes that emotion is the enemy in this situation. He needs cold, hard logic. So he walks into the team meeting room with a whiteboard.
And he starts doing math.
He does simple math. He writes on the board, okay, we have 10 games left. To win the title, history shows us we need 23 points. That means we need to win 7 games and draw 2. He broke the terrifying, vague, emotional goal of winning the league down into a boring, achievable math problem.
It grounded them. It took the emotion out of it.
It took the panic away. It gave them a simple checklist. Okay, let's just win today. Let's get 3 of the 23 points. And it worked. They went on a run and won the Premier League and the FA Cup.
And he uses another food metaphor here, the metaphor of the empty plate.
Yes. He said when he arrived at Chelsea, the plate was empty. He needed to fill it with trophies. Once he won the double, the plate was full. He was satisfied. But only for a moment. He admits that looking at an empty plate makes him uncomfortable, but looking at a full plate just makes him want to eat again.
The hunger never leaves.
Never.
So as we wrap up, we have to try and synthesize all this. We had the pig, the farmer, the tactician, the comedian, the prankster. What is the ultimate lesson of Carlo Ancelotti's career?
I think it comes down to the final image he gives us in the book. It's a little bit crude, but it's absolutely perfect. He talks about his earthquake-proof ass.
You have to explain that.
He says that throughout his career, he has had to sit on the most wobbly benches in the world. Juventus, Milan, Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. At any given moment, a powerful owner could fire him. The fans could revolt. The media could destroy him. The ground beneath him is constantly shaping.
But he doesn't fall off the bench.
He never falls. Because he says he has built in these incredible shock absorbers. And those shock absorbers are his humanity, his sense of humor, his patience, and yes, his deep, abiding love of life and food. He absorbs the earthquake so that his players don't have to feel the tremors.
He protects them from the chaos.
He protects them. He lets them play the game of the brigand chief, while he is the one who has to deal with the angry billionaires and the ravenous press. And that creates a fierce, unbreakable loyalty. Players will die for him on the pitch because they know he is taking the bullets for them off it.
It's a really powerful redefinition of leadership, isn't it? We so often think the leader needs to be the hardest worker, the loudest voice, the most intense visionary.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs type.
Exactly, the grind set.
Yeah.
Ancelotti proves that there is another way. You can be the ordinary genius. You can be the friend. You can be the guy who prioritizes a good dinner over another PowerPoint presentation, and you can still win more than almost anyone else in history.
So the provocative thought to leave our listeners with is this. In a world of data analytics, sports science, and hyper-athletes, maybe the ultimate competitive advantage isn't another ice bath or a 4 a.m. workout.
Maybe it's a really good salami and a laugh with your friends.
You the salami, to me the coppa.
I think I'm going to adopt that as my personal motto.
That is a wrap on our deep dive into Carlo Ancelotti, a man who proved that a pig can indeed coach and conquer the world. Thanks for listening. Go enjoy a good meal. We'll see you next time.